Welcome to the USU Career Studio podcast that helps you navigate your career path. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to tell your friends and family all about it. Subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere else you listen to get access to our newest content. Thanks for joining us for our Friday face-to-face episode. I'm Marissa Armistead, your host, and I am excited to welcome USU alumni TJ Davis to the show. Welcome, TJ.
Thanks for having me.
This month, TJ, we're really focusing on careers connected to the Kane College of Arts. So I am beyond excited to have a Pickleville Playhouse actor, director, producer. What else am I missing here? A couple other roles.
That's plenty.
Well, I'm so excited to hear about your career journey. And I'd actually love to start our conversation today by going back in time a little bit. So if you would, I'd love to just get a glimpse of what your academic journey was like at USU, but also your professional career journey thus far. So give us a glimpse of how did you get to where you are today, TJ?
Sure. Yeah. So I have an atypical path, but I'm finding out the more you get out there, the more typical it actually is. And the path is that, I had a certain idea of what a career should be like when I was younger. I knew I wanted to have a certain kind of life. I wanted to have a bigger family, wanted to be able to spend time with them and stuff. And I come from a family of a bunch of doctors, like everyone's in the medical profession. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a doctor because, they make a lot of money and they, get to make their own hours and they're kind of their own boss and all those important things. And so I went down that path, was pre-med for most of my undergrad. I got into the interview process with the committee that interviews you and gets you ready. And right at the last minute, and I had shadowed a bunch of doctors and I was like, yeah, I think I could do this for a living. It's not that I hated it or anything like that, but once I got to the end of it, I was like, you know what, being a dentist they have a lot less stress in their life. And I could work 3, maybe 4 days a week and do what I want to do on the other days. So I switched at the last second and I went to dental school. I went to dental school at The Ohio State University. And my wife gets all the credit for this because we went out there and, getting out to a school like that, it's no small task.
It's a process.
The whole process of getting into dental school and all that. But about, the end of the second semester, I came home and I said, Erin, they're really, all my classmates are so excited about doing crowns and fillings. And I think I'm in the wrong place. I don't
what
think
every wife wants to hear.
I know. And to her credit, she said, okay, great. What's your plan? I said, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea, but I'm sure that it's not this. I just can't see myself doing this forever. So we turned around and came home, and my family owned Pickleville Playhouse, the theater up in Bear Lake. And then it was, just kind of like a hobby type of a thing that my mom was running. Sometimes her brothers would help run it. And my dad even wrote me a letter when I told him that I was going to come back. He wrote me this big, long email and said, we support you 100%, but just so you know, Pickleville will never be an option for making money. That's not going to be your career. You won't, it's not a thing. And so I came home and we tried a couple other things in healthcare, like business related stuff. I worked at the Desert Star Theater in Murray. It's down on State Street in Murray. And I did group sales for them and was in some of their shows and learned a lot about the business side of theater.
Interesting.
And I guess I should back up. My major is exercise science, so it's nothing related to theater at all. But I did at Utah State. I was in a group called the Sunburst Singers. I don't know if you ever heard of the Sunburst Singers before?
I haven't.
How about the Glenn Miller Show? Nothing.
You're talking to the wrong person. I'm from Salt Lake. I'm out of the loop.
Yeah, and you came here in 2017. So back then it was this was when I was in the Sunburst Singers, in 2000 actually. And they put on this wonderful big show, and it was a group of 6 guys and 6 girls. And anyway, it was a performing group, and we toured. We went to Thailand for a month and did some things. And it was an ambassador group for the university. So that was my performing experience in college was the Sunverse group. But yeah, so back to Desert Star, I learned a lot there, and it wasn't a fit career wise there. But I said, got this idea, Christmas was coming up, and the previous Christmas I had been working at Desert Star and selling to groups like, come and you can have dinner and a show right in the same place. And these people that are planning company parties just loved it because that's exactly what they want is, food and entertainment.
Yep.
And so I said, we could do this in Logan. And there's like, well, what show will we do? Oh, I don't know. I'll just write a show. I'll just make something up and we'll do it. So I went door to door, selling to businesses. And so we had like 80% of our business, because we didn't have a Facebook group. We didn't have an email list, any way to like reach our people. It was like flyers was all that we did in the summer back then. And and it worked out. And I think we made like $10,000, $15,000 that winter. And we were like,
that's crazy.
Gosh, we're so rich. We could do this for a living. And then we took some of the things that were obvious things that could improve, that we could improve on the summer business. And we started doing like multiple shows on Fridays and Saturdays. And I kept writing shows, not only for Christmas, but for the summer stuff. And it just kind of bloomed into like, we got a following, and, we got a good email list now, and we do social media and all those kinds of things that a business like ours needs. And it turned into a career. So it was not the typical path, but like I said, more and more, like you hear about people that are like, yeah, I thought it was going to be this. And I just kind of followed my nose and followed my heart. And this is where I ended up. And wow, like how awesome,
Man, so many questions. Let's see, where do I start? Okay, so I'm super curious. As you look back, especially on those first few years of college, looking at it now, would you do anything differently? Because it sounds like it all worked out, right? You got to the end place, or the current place. But I'm curious, if you could go back, would you have changed anything about that college experience?
Yeah, I guess I really don't regret anything, because obviously like it got us where we are, and we're happy where we are. But I think that with my kids, so I've got a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. And I think, what I've been telling them and what I will tell them is like, you should probably choose a major that has something that interests you, like not just because you want to be the thing that you end up being at the end of that path. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I enjoy, like, it's not that I hated my classes or anything like that, but if you ask me like what were my favorite classes in high school, it was like the creative writing stuff, and it was the sports stuff. It was not the biology and the things that you do, and the science, the things that you do a lot of to become a doctor or a dentist. You know what I mean? So
yep,
that would be my suggestion, is like, go, if you don't know what you want to be, that's fine. Like, you're going to be a successful person, but go and get your nose into something that interests you first, and business would have been something that I would have done for sure.
And it's interesting, because what you described, and I love that you're bringing up this point of a college degree is valuable, and also real world experience. You could get a degree in business, but you also just went out and kind of started your own business. And I think sometimes we get so set on this is the right way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we just keeping those options open. That's what I really appreciate about your stories. You just said, I'm going to keep my options open, and I'm going to take action, and I'm just going to start testing things out. And I think that's a really powerful example of learning by doing. So I really love that that came through in that story. I'm also curious. So, let's say a student, maybe a sophomore Aggie, comes to you and says, TJ, I love what you're doing with Pickleville. It looks so fun. I love, theater and acting. What can I do entry level wise? What can I do? Is there an internship? Is there, just generally speaking, how can I get experience in this field of theater or acting?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of volunteer opportunities, and we live in a great place here in Cache Valley, because there are 3 or 4 really good like community theater groups that are doing stuff. and those folks are always looking for, people to help with certain aspects of the show, so you can get in the middle of it. You can get as involved as you want to in a lot of those places, and kind of learn what it's like to put a show together, or to put a company together even. Like if someone came up and said, hey, I want to volunteer, to me, like I would be like, okay, well, let's see what skills you have that you could help us with, and if that's an option, then it would be like, well, let's not have you volunteer, let's have you work for us, but maybe it won't be like the full rate or whatever, but let's give you this experience. And we've done that with several different people. And I guess the other thing that if it's like an actor or some kind of a performer or even a director, what I always say is, like, there's just no excuse now as far as creating stuff. Like there's multiple opportunities, like just open your phone up and click one of the apps and start going. You know what I mean? If you're a creative type of a person, if you're like, oh, I want to be a screenwriter, I'm going to hang out until I get my big break. Like that's really low percentage that's going to work out for you. Much more high percentage is like write a little, a TikTok skit or whatever it is. Like use your creativity and start exercising it that way. And I think that's how a lot of the people nowadays are getting picked up is through things like that, through actually, like you said, going and doing, like just get out there and start doing the thing that you want to do,
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny. My husband and I, we were just having a conversation not too long ago about how entertainment, just the industry of entertainment, has shifted because of social media. You don't have to go and watch a movie at a theater to be entertained. There's so many other avenues. So I love that idea of, starting it. Just about anybody can get started and put themselves out there. So that's a great point. That's actually a great lead in. Another question that I'm thinking about is the skill sets. So I feel like nobody could have prepared you to be doing what you're doing today, but what skills have really come through and you would just say, yeah, you absolutely have to have a skill in this?
I wrote down notes because I thought you might ask this. Well, I think number one is you have to have a creative talent, obviously, to be in the arts. And people say that, and you're like, oh well, I'm not a talented person or wasn't blessed with that. But what I mean by that is like just the ability to see something before it actually exists. So like a lot of my time in writing, and I'm sure with other people that are writing stuff, is sitting at your desk and you're just playing it in your head, and you have the ability to look on that stage that's in your mind and see it happen, and then like imagine an audience's reaction or how a regular person would perceive what's happening. And so when we get to like a rehearsal with actors, I've already played this thing 100 times in my mind, and it doesn't ever end up exactly like I saw it, but all that work had to happen for it to end up like it does. So I think that creative ability is really important. And then obviously like theater stuff and creative things more and more now. I guess not if you're just like a single TikTok star or something like that, but it's like it's the ultimate team game. You cannot succeed. The person that's getting the applause, like, oh my gosh, like great for that person, but there's like 20 other people that had to do their jobs amazingly well for that person to even get seen. So being able to interact with other people and be kind, and we've been so lucky over the last several years. We do a lot of our casting out of state now, through like national casting websites, and we find plenty of talented people. But then the next step is like getting on multiple phone calls with them and saying, what kind of a teammate are you going to be? Like, let me see, are you a diva person? Do you think you're more important than everyone else? Like, because those people just don't fit in a creative environment. And I don't think a lot of them succeed, to be honest. Like a lot of the famous people that I'm sure there are exceptions, but a lot of them are really good people, and they're good at interacting with other people. So
is it a tight line between ego versus confidence in this field? Because I feel like that could be really tricky.
Yeah, I think there's um I take it back to like I played basketball in high school. It was a big part of my high school growing
Uh-huh.
up, and you can be a certain way in life, and you're a nice, well-behaved, kind person, and then you get into a competitive situation and where it's appropriate, you're like, I'm not your friend anymore. It's me versus you, and one of
Yep.
us is going to win, one of us is going to. So in theater, I think that it's a lot the same of like, um, you need to be humble and it needs to be sincere, and I think it comes from understanding what I just said, is that
Yeah.
if I look good today, it's because everyone else helped me look good. And yeah, I might have some talent, but that doesn't make me any better than anyone else. um, so you can, it's your job. We always talk about that with our cast, is like, go out and be a superstar today. Like, don't hold back, just be your very greatest, most interesting, most awesome self. um, and so it's not an either or. It's like, what time of life am I on the stage right now? Okay, this is what I'm going to be. Am I off? Then it's a different thing.
I love that analogy. That makes a lot of sense. And I've never really heard it coined that way. So that's super interesting. I'm curious, and you've talked a little bit about this, but in the past you did a lot of acting. I saw you as an actor. Juanito is a pretty famous
Hmm.
character that people
Hmm.
have come to love and miss. But I'm curious, what was that transition from really being on the stage a lot and doing other things to now you're kind of in a more director type of role? What has that transition been like?
Yeah, people, I get that question a ton, like, oh, do you miss it so much? And it's like, yeah, like, being on stage is so fun. Like, it's not pretend, like, it's as fun as it looks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Almost all the time. um but for me, the reason why I haven't been like involved in the summer stuff as much is just because of schedule stuff. Like, my kids are getting older. They're not getting old, but and I want to be with them in their summer things that they're doing. So the schedule of like being in a show every single night is a little bit difficult.
Absolutely.
So, but I'm sure that there'll be a time of life when we go back to something similar to what it was before. um but I've been, even through all the Bandito stuff, and um I've been the not only in the show but the director of the shows, with plenty of help from my mom and brother and other directors that have been involved, obviously. But I think that all makes it that it helps to have been everything in the equation, so you can like have empathy for what everyone's going through. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it any other way. I'm sure glad that I get the full experience of being able to direct and be in the show, because now I can understand when we're dealing with an actor trying to get a certain thing. Like, yeah, that experience really helps. So
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, to that point of empathy, and you really hit on this theme of teamwork, which is super interesting, being able to see each other's strengths and lift each other up in that theater space. I love that. TJ, I'm sad we're almost out of time, but I do want to ask one final question. And that question is, if you could give students one piece of advice about entering a creative field like this, what advice would you give?
um it would probably be what I already said, which is, don't wait. The thing that a thing that I dislike about our profession, about theater in general, is that so many people are just out there, and like, we get hundreds and hundreds of auditions every year. And I look at these people and I'm like, you are so talented, but we don't have a spot for you, or you're not right for this. And you're gonna feel like totally rejected when we write, or someone comes to an audition and we're like, I'm sorry. Um, but what I want to say is, like, go take your talent, like, put it somewhere. If no one's casting you in their show, or you're not getting an opportunity to direct, well, then go write your own little tiny thing and make something and
Go
start
make some
putting it out
flyers.
there. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Because the more that you do, you'll find out real quick whether you love doing it or not. And chances are you're probably not good enough to get paid to do it, if you're not getting paid to do it yet. And then if you keep doing it, then you'll get to that level. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's
Yes.
not all, that's not everything. There's plenty of people that are great that just aren't getting casted because there's more talent than there are opportunities, I think, right now. But that will change in the future. There's, have you seen how many shows there are on Netflix lately? So it's wide open for those that want to go and grab the bull by the horns or whatever and start to make stuff.
There's never been a better time. I love it.
Sure.
Well, TJ, as we close today, I want to put you on the hot seat one more time. I have to ask, I would love to hear Go Aggies, but I would love to hear Juanito tell us Go Aggies.
We need to have like the thing, the YouTube or the Apple like emoji head come up, right? Can you put that on after?
We'll see what we can do there.
I'll have to cover it up, okay? All right, you guys, let's go Aggies. The Aggies are the best. Go Aggies, go Aggies. Hey, hey, hey.
Yes. My life has been complete.
You're awesome.
TJ, thank you so much for your insights. And it's just been a pleasure. I so appreciate your time today.
Thanks so much for having me. Have a good one.
You too. We hope you loved this episode of the USU Career Studio podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and share this episode with your friends and family.